Hello friends, so let us talk about importance human characteristics in design. So what are the human features in while designing the system? So let us see first. The peoples are most complex organism with many attributes and they have an important influence on interface design. So people may be your audience, your users, designers and so on. So most important thing is your perception, memory, visual acuity, foveal and peripheral vision, sensory storage, information processing, learning skill and individual differences. So these are the most aspects of characteristics in your design. So let us look about perception. So perception says about like it's our awareness and understanding of the elements and object in our environment through the physical ways. Now through physically like you can feel it, you can see it, you can touch it. So this is a perception. Now the perceptual characteristic of proximity, that means what our eyes and mind sees the object belonging, whose object is belonging as a near to us. Then similarity, that you can make similar objects and you can make your exercise with the object remembrance, and if they share a common visual property like color, shape, size and so on. Then matching pattern, was it that pattern that what you liked or now is the different pattern? Suppose you chose one dress for yourself, one colored fabric suppose, and that is like in a strips pattern. But earlier when you saw that the pattern it was in a dot pattern, so you just see the difference like dot pattern and the strips pattern and so on. So you try to match it, you try to map it. Oh, I've seen this earlier and so this is about your proximity. Then your succinctness, that means we see an object having some perfect or simple shape, because perfection or simplicity is easier to remember. So succinctness is about your simple shape. Then closure, this is about a synthetic perception. That means if something is does not quite itself, like circle, if you see any shape and we can say it in a closely way. Then unity, that objects form a closed shape. Then continuity. Continuity is about shortened lines and maybe automatically extended. This is all about the graphics. Then you have context. Context on environment or surroundings all influential individual perception. For example, like two drawn lines on same length. I've drawn two lines of same length that looks of same length on different length. That depends on the angle you are looking at. Then you have signal versus noise. So your sensing mechanism, when you sense something is going on, so by many stimuli, for many reaction, there is alarm or something is wrong, where you become alert, or something like you heard a noise and you just try to fix that noise and so on. So like figures in the signal, ground is everything else forming in the background. That signals or figures, they are more quickly comprehended if they are easily distinguishable from noise or background. The noise can even mask a critical signal. For example, a hidden word puzzle, like you scrabble the words. You play the Scrabble? So how you make the word, how you form of words. So that is, you need to identify that it's a signal or it's a noise. Once a screen is first presented and it has to be identified as being the correct one, the signal screen's title may be the signal. The other element it content may be noise. So the goal in design is to utilize a perceptual capabilities so that the screen can be structured in the meaningful and obvious way. Then next you have memory. So memory is the most stable about human attributes, as one tends to forget. And one said you forget about the anniversary or the birthdays or any events that remembered and so on. So this has not been the case, and it is the area that the classic memory, indicating like 7 plus or minus to the chunks of memory. So there we earlier we have studied about the short-term memory or working memories. That means they are actively they include or remember the events which are happened in the past, which was happened when you were small in your childhood, and so on. So within short-term memory, a limited amount of memory processing takes place. Knowledge, experience, and familiarity, it helps the size and complexity of the information to be retained in our memory. So in performance or in research indicates that a greater working memory is positively related to increased reading comprehension. Then long-term memory. Long-term memory contains your long-term memory contents of the knowledge we possess. Then information received in the short-term memory is transferred to it and encoded to it. So maximum is about your memory, how much you can store it. Then you have a sensory storage. So sensory storage is a buffer when where the automatic processing of information is collected from a sense and that takes place. So it is like in a sleepy state when you just see a dream, but it later then you recall what the dream you have been seeing. So it seems like a radar, constantly scanning the environment of things that are most important to pass on your high memory. So it is like for example, it is sometimes called as cocktail party effect. Like, have you been at a party when you come across a room through the din of voices or something like mention or name you hear? So you just start remembering. Oh, I've been to that party and I've seen this. I remember. Oh yes. Then how that memory works? So repeated and excessive simulation can fatigue the sensory storage mechanism, making it less attentive and unable to distinguish what is important. It's called the habituations. Then you have visual audacity. So visual audacity is the capacity of your eye to resolve details. So it is mostly relative with your eye phenomenon. So this phenomenon that results in the object becoming more distinct as we turn our eye towards it or rapidly increase. So as we go far away, the object tends to become small, and we come across it, it becomes large. So how does the eye react? How does the eye tends to see your object? So it is like a visual angle from the point of fixation increases. So eye is never perfectly steady at its says. It retimely slightly. This tremor which improves the detection of edges of objects being looking at. So this is concept of about the vision, and it also increase the distance with many possible variation in font sizes. Makes the exact calculation of the chunk size. Then next you have foveal and peripheral visions. Now foveal vision is used to focus directly on something. Peripheral vision senses something in the area surrounding the locations we are looking at. Then you have information processing. Now information processing is like that a census collect that is deemed important enough to do something which is then to be processed in a meaningful way. So how it is done? In addition to this high level, there exists a lower level of information processing. The limit of its capacity is unknown. That means both level functioning simultaneously, the higher level performing reasoning and problem solving, the lower level perceiving the physical form of information sense. So what happens is, like, suppose you came across a shape and a structure adequately, it communicate to you that is a correct scheme for the context in which you are working. Now, if you want, for example, like if you're working on a screen and you just find out, oh, this is the actual shape or the structure you wanted to for your screen, for your display, and you come across it. So, visual distinctness of a screen is a strong contributor. If a screen is jammed with information and clutter, that means it depends upon your display, that how you organize, how you align your text and graphics. If too much crowded of your information, too much crowds of information display, text and images, so it becomes like hotpot. What it is jammed with information, cluttered all over, that is scattered everywhere, so it does not have a common phenomenon to read it. Then you have a mental model. So mental model is Sorry, as a result of our experience and a culture, we develop a mental model of things and people we interact with. So, a mental model is simply an internal representations of person current understanding of something. So that means it's a kind of a prototype model. If we compare this with the software engineering prototype model, what actually needed is just a prototype. It's just a simple, similar one a model is built. So mental models also enable a person to predict the action necessary to do things. So when confronting a new computer system, people will bring their own expectations and preconception base. So when designing, then design with people's mental model in mind. So this is like never compromise a goal and design simply to confirm the existing mental model. Then it's about that's what I explained. Movement control once your Moment control. Okay, huh? Moment control is once the data has been perceived and appropriate action is decided upon. So a responses must be made. So in many cases, the response is movement. The movement is like moving to and fro. So the implication in screen designing are as follows: provide a large object for important function, taking advantage of pinning action of the sides, top, bottom corners of the screen. So it is like a big buttons are better than a small buttons, so that depends upon again the designer which one to choose, what is needed, how it is required, and so on. Then it is next is learning. So learning is the process, as we I mentioned earlier, is the process of encoding a long term memory information that is contained in a short term memory. So how does it work? Our ability to learn is important. It clearly differentiates people from machines. So a design developed to minimize human learning time can greatly accelerate human performance. So regarding this, the learning process is evidence which is derived from studying of people that learning a computer parallel that found in studies of learning. So how this is useful? So learning can be enhanced like allowing skills to perform certain things in one situation when to be used what somewhat like it, like design consistency accomplish this, provide complete and prompt feedback. Is it phase that it requires person to know the information needed? Then you have skills. The goal of a human performance is perform skillfully. How skilled you are, what skill work you do in like skillfully, what you create, like you are good in painting, you are good in singing, you are good in making music, you are good in dance, and so on. You are good in coding, you are good in reading, you are good in writing, you are good in writing poem, and so on. So lots of skillful works are there, and we try to tend it because we make a hobby of it. So skill is like a hierarchical in nature, and many basic skill may be integrated to form increasingly complex one. So normally the goal of the skill of as I said earlier, the goal of human performance is to perform skillfully. Then to do so, it requires linking your input, your transformation, the functions to transform the responses into the sequence of action. Now, suppose if you love to do painting, now the design came in front of you. You collected your paints, what you said, the paint thing, like you collected your brush, then there are different types of brush. You chose your brush, you chose the color what you want, what type of color you want. You want watercolor, oil paint, it's a normal crayon, sketch pen, and so on. So then you think about the design. As a design is in your mind, you start working on it. So that means the design which is in your mind is converted into a sequence of action, and your hands move onto the board. It start making a design, and you just try to tend to look into it, what color you want. So your mind is full of responses or sequence of action, like what to do next and next. So with this, the essence of skill is a performance of action or movements. It's a correct time sequence with the adequate precisions and characterized by consistency and economical effort. So this is economic of effort which is achieved by establishing a workspace that represent your optimum efficiency. Then you have individual differences. Now, individual differences can happen because it depends upon the person to person. In reality, I cannot say that okay, 50% has this, 50%. No, everyone has that difference in opinion, difference in viewing it, difference of understanding it. So that means it turns as opinion so a complicating but very advantageous human characteristic is that we all differ in looking, feeling, motor abilities, intellectual abilities, learning abilities, speed, and so on. So, for simple tasks, text editing is faster users are 1.8 times speedier than the slow users. Individual differences complicate design because design must permit, see, what happens is design must provide for the needs of all potential users. Now, design can lead individual designs might complicate because my design is different than yours, but that could lead to be in a different manner. It feel as I mentioned you that looking, feeling, motor abilities, intellectual abilities, learning abilities, and speed are differ from person to person. So individual differences it complicate maybe complicate design because if two or three designers sit together, they will not able to finalize design in 1 hour, in 1 minute, in 1 day. It will take them several days to decide to come up what exactly user wants. They have to think and they have to design in such a way manner. So in this way, we have completed the importance of human characteristic in human considerations. Next time we'll see human consideration topic.